Have you ever just stood outside an abandoned building at the edge of your town and felt this inexplicable, undeniable chill run right down your spine? Well, welcome to today's Explainer, where we're going to unpack a documented, decades-old mystery that actually centers around something entirely mundane, a village water tank. But as we're going to see, what lies beneath this crumbling, moss-covered concrete structure is literally anything but ordinary. We're going to explore a really chilling sequence of events that bridges this terrifying gap between local folklore and undeniable physical danger.
And so, that brings us right to our central question for today. What really hides beneath the village water tank? I mean, what dark secret could possibly turn a simple, everyday piece of infrastructure into the focal point of a 50-year string of mysterious disappearances? For half a century, locals whispered about this old tank near the forest. The story went that whoever wandered near it after dark either fell gravely ill or they just vanished into thin air. But you know, rumors are just rumors, right? Well, until someone actually survives to tell the tale.
All right, let's jump right into part one, the initial encounter, where a practical farmer's late-night ride totally unravels a decades-old mystery. Our story breaks open with a guy named Ramlal. Now, Ramlal is a 45-year-old farmer who openly laughs at ghosts and village superstitions. After a really long day selling wheat at the local market, he finds himself pedaling home late at night. His route takes him right past the dense forest. And you guessed it, right past that abandoned water tank. It's about 9:30 p.m. The wind is just howling, and the only sound out there is the frantic rattling of Ramlal's rusted bicycle chain. His small lantern is barely piercing the darkness, but suddenly, his bicycle bell rings completely on its own. As he nears the towering, moss-covered tank, his lantern abruptly dies, just out. In the pitch black, a tall, impossibly thin figure draped in white suddenly appears. Ramlal frantically pedals away, the cold wind whipping his face. But the true horror here? When he looks back over his shoulder, it's not a person chasing him. It's a pair of glowing red eyes, seemingly floating in the air, relentlessly pursuing him through the dark until he crashes his bike and barely escapes with his life.
Which leads us to a village gripped by fear. Because the morning light brought absolute dread when a local shepherd named Mohan vanished.
So Ramlal actually makes it home to his terrified wife Geeta. But the very next day at the village square, the whole narrative shifts into a horrifying reality. The village elders are gathered in an absolute panic because Mohan the shepherd is gone. And this is when they realize Ramlal's nightmare wasn't just some isolated incident. Look at this timeline. 50 years ago, this tank was built during a massive water crisis. But in 1978, a watchman named Raghuvir completely vanished on a rainy night. When they searched for him, all they found inside the tank was his unlit lantern. Now, jump to today. Ramlal is attacked, and Shepherd Mohan is gone. Guys, this wasn't a sudden haunting. We're talking about a decades-long curse operating on a devastating, predictable cycle.
You see, the village myth was always that nighttime wanderers simply got lost in the dense woods or maybe fell ill from the damp night air. Kind of a logical explanation, right? But the terrifying reality? When a 5-man search party, which actually included a very reluctant Ramlal, went looking for the missing shepherd, they found his walking stick abandoned. And much more chillingly, they found fresh footprints leading directly inside the rusted, half-open iron door of the tank, pointing straight down into a hidden subterranean basement that literally no one knew existed.
Next up, descent into the darkness. 5 men step inside the rusted tank, following the missing shepherd's prints underground.
As they go down, the air grows freezing cold with every single step. It just reeks of dampness and rust. Water is dripping and echoing from the ceiling. Now, let me ask you, how would you react if you were in their shoes right now? Because as they're following those footprints down into the dark, the heavy iron trapdoor above them violently slams shut on its own. They're trapped. Then, footsteps start echoing all around them in the dark. Their flashlights flicker and just die, plunging the entire basement into this absolute suffocating blackness. Suddenly, multiple pairs of glowing red eyes open in the void. A heavy, chilling voice echoes out, saying, "Whoever comes to know the secret of this tank never goes back." One of the men screams in sheer terror, and in a flash, he is violently dragged by his arm right into the abyss. Then, total silence.
Let's move to the next phase, uncovering the 50-year-old secret, where a hidden brick wall grinds open to reveal a forgotten tunnel. So now just 3 men are left, Ramlal, Gopal, and Sham. They are frozen like statues, their friends' screams still echoing in their ears. With no way up, they're forced to walk deeper into this unknown tunnel that clearly hasn't been touched in over 50 years. The walls are covered in ancient handprints. Some of them are terrifyingly large, others small, almost like a child's. At the very end of the tunnel is a small, faintly lit room. Inside, they find a dusty iron lantern that is inexplicably still burning. Hanging on the wall is a black and white photograph dated 1978. It's a man with a serious face, Raghuveer, the missing watchman, and sitting quietly over in the corner is a heavily rusted iron trunk. They manage to smash the rusted lock with a rock, and inside, they find old documents, photographs, and most importantly,
Ramlal carefully opens the diary, and that first page just hits with this heavy, dreadful weight. It reads, "If anyone is reading this diary, understand that the secret of the tank is now before you." This diary, written by Raghuveer before he vanished, becomes the absolute key to understanding the mechanics of the horrific situation they're trapped in.
So what exactly is going on here? The diary explains that 50 years ago, when the tank was built, Raghuveer found this secret tunnel. He heard a child's crying and went down to investigate, finding old clothes and toys but no child. What he actually encountered was what local folklore refers to as a chalawa, a mimic. This isn't your normal physical predator. It's a deeply psychological trap. It perfectly imitates the voices of loved ones to lure its prey into the dark. It's an entity made entirely of illusion and deceit.
Raghuveer's final, frantically written diary entry really reveals the chilling truth of it all. He wrote, "Today I found out the truth. It calls out in the voices of those we know. Whoever goes down never comes back." The entity doesn't just hunt with physical force, you guys. It uses our deepest, most human emotional attachments as a weapon. It weaponizes love and concern. The diary's very last line was just this desperate plea: never open the tank. Do not let what is below come out. Which brings us to the trap of illusions. Because knowing about the entity doesn't stop it from instantly putting its terrifying mimicry into action. Yeah, here is the terrifying reality check. Understanding the trap absolutely does not make you immune to it. As soon as Ramlal finishes reading those words, a freezing wind sweeps through the room, completely killing the lantern. They are plunged right back into the dark. Out of the blackness, a voice softly calls out, "Ramlal, save me." It's Geeta. It's Ramlal's wife's exact voice. Even knowing it's a trap, the emotional pull is just incredibly intense. He clicks his flashlight back on, and standing right there in the doorway is a woman in a white sari with her head bowed. But as she slowly lifts her head, there's no face, just a deep, dark, terrifying void. The creature lets out this ear-piercing, unearthly shriek that literally shakes the foundations of the tank. Suddenly, dozens of black, dry, skeletal hands just burst from the brick walls of the tunnel, grasping wildly at the men. Pure adrenaline kicks in, and the three men sprint blindly down the dark tunnel toward the surface, totally desperate to escape.
And now, Raghuveer's final warning. They come bursting out of the tunnel and collapse into the dirt outside, finding themselves under a stormy, thunderous sky. But guess what? The nightmare isn't over. Standing right on top of the ruined water tank is the translucent, white-clad ghost of Raghuveer, the watchman. Ramlal begs the spirit to spare them, but Raghuveer doesn't speak. He just silently raises his arm and points downward. Ramlal shines his flashlight exactly where the ghost is pointing, a crack in the earth beneath the tank, spewing this thick, black smoke. Remembering the diary, they realize they have to seal the structure completely. They scramble behind the tank and find the main, massive iron water valve, which is just thick with decades of rust. The three men grab onto it, using literally every ounce of physically exhausting brute force they have left in them. Finally, with a massive groan, the valve turns. Instantly, an earth-shattering boom erupts from deep within the tank. Lightning strikes, torrential rain begins to pour down. The black shadows retreat back into the earth, and Raghuveer's ghost, finally looking like he's at peace, fades away into the rain. They had vanquished the shadows.
But as the three exhausted survivors silently begin their long walk back to the village, a voice cries out from the dark woods behind them, "Help me! Save me!" Ramlal's friend stops dead in his tracks. It is the exact voice of the fourth man, the one who was dragged into the darkness earlier. He turns to run back to help, but Ramlal grabs him, remembering the diary's grim warning about the mimic. They force themselves to keep walking away. The next day, the village seals the tank permanently behind a heavy iron gate, but it leaves us with this final, genuinely chilling question. As they walked away in the rain that night, was their friend truly out there calling for help, or is the entity still down there, perfectly imitating a desperate plea, just waiting for someone to open the gate? I'm going to let you think about that one. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer.